In this video that I'm about to make about financial strategy is for information purposes only. By no means am I giving financial advice, but I believe that I have a financial strategy that works, and I want to talk about the three components of wealth and the four characteristics. So to be honest, wealth has principles, it has characteristics, it has components. You cannot have wealth without a vision. You cannot have wealth without a structure. You cannot have wealth without a strategy. You cannot have wealth without consistency, and ultimately being able to focus on understanding the value of wealth and why we built it. So the first thing I want to go through is three components are cash flow creation, leverage reinvest component, and the diversification risk management component. So let's talk about those three first. So the cash flow creation, your income flow component is your income generators. So that is your workspace where you are working, and your sideline diversification, how you build income. And the more incomes you have, the higher income flow components you have, which means you have the ability to take higher risk. Then you have the leverage reinvest component. Now the compound component. Now that is important. Knowing where are you investing your money, right? Is it diversifying it through crypto? Is it diversifying it through commodities, and then ultimately through stocks, the SP 500, the NASDAQ, the venture, the NQ? So where are you investing it, right? Because you have to understand, are you investing it into real estate that there's a cash flow return? Because now that's the next part, leveraging compound. Now you have to understand, as you compound yearly, your exponential wealth grows quicker, faster. It picks up the pace higher. If you invested the SP 500 25 years ago and you just put in $1,000 a month, but now you should be sitting on $16 million. So that is an incredible amount of compounding, but the first 8.5 years are going to be the slowest, and then it's going to 10x from 8.5 years to 5.5 years, from 5.5 years to 2.5 years. So compound is important. Then the last one is the risk management, and that is the biggest. That is the component that is very important. That's now where we're going to deal with the characteristics. So diversification component, having it built up with the structure. What I personally do is, when I get an income, I put 10% in emergency cash flow, so I never have to touch my investments, right? So I put a 10% into emergency cash flow. Then I have 10% that is available for spending. Then I diversify 40% into investments, and the other 40% would go into your livelihood, right? Out of that 40%, what I do is I invest 30%, 30%, 30% among the SP 500. So I have a whole index that I use on my stocks. So I would go and I invest that into stocks. I take 30%, I would put it into NASDAQ, SP 500, I put into the venture stocks and the NQQ stocks. Then the other 30% would go into commodities, silver, gold, ETFs. Then the other 30% I would diversify 40% in a stable coin, 30% into blue chip, potential altcoins that has a RWA, and then 30% I will go high risk altcoin portfolios that I know within the top 100 index, market volume index, right? So that is my strategy, how I do financial. That is my strategy. I enforce this is how I do it. And then ultimately, let's talk about, I would go deeper into this in the future. I want to talk about the wealth characteristics. So you have three components, right? And you have four characteristics. So the four characteristics you're going to need if you want to become wealthy is you're going to be stability as a characteristic you're going to have to focus on. So stability, security, service, patience. How does that work? Stability, you will see later on. I'm going to do a breakdown on how to build stability. Your wealth must accumulate stability, right? So that's why you need a cash flow, because you create stability by having multiple income generators. Then you build security when your income generators plus your investments start circulating a reinvestment compound. You start building security because it accumulates autonomously. Then you become secure, financially secure. So security starts happening when you no longer have to put an input, it automatically runs. You've now overcome the risk and the adversity of the world by your potential income flow. Then service, you need to understand your wealth must produce a product. Your income, Your investments, they must serve a purpose. A product must be there. People pay you for your abilities. They pay you for what you are able to provide. They pay you for the value of your skill, and they would sacrifice based on the value that you are able to offer. Patience, that's the most important one. The capacity to endure instant gratification and allow compound harvesting, it stops it. So if you chase instant gratification, you are not allowing compound harvest to be formed. You see, purpose produces patience, but greedy lust produces poverty. So that is where I'm going to go with today. So you have your 3 components. You must be able to identify your income flow component, your leverage component, your diversification component, 4 characteristics: stability, security, service, patience. That is important. So now you build that. So either you go in, for my strategy is to invest into broken properties. I fix them up, I flip them, I take the money, I boost it into my leverage component, right? I diversify it so that my risk comes lower. I keep focusing on my job so I can have maximum income where I'm at, right? Then maybe you eventually can add rental incomes. You can have the business where I do mentoring, that's another income. You build this income, push them into a leverage component. And from your leverage component, you focus on the risk management, knowing that you are diversifying, knowing that both of them balance each other out, right? And then in between, I focus on character, stability, security, service, patience. That's the most important. Don't chase instant gratification, chase it, purpose. This is my strategy, this is my focus. I break it down. I'm a coach for a reason. I don't believe in financial advisors. I believe that they are a bunch of fat hypocrites, because I just teach people how they do it. And I don't do this for financial advising. I do this because I know how they do it. And that's how asset management make money. They know what you do not know, and what people do not know, they will leverage over you. Blessings to you, and I will break this down further on in the future.